Wrestling world in shock. WWE legend Hulk Hogan dies of cardiac arrest. The wrestling universe is mourning as we confirm the tragic passing of WWE Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan due to cardiac arrest. In this emotional tribute, we break the heartbreaking news and reflect on the legacy of the man who helped shape professional wrestling into what it is today. From his larger-than-life persona to his unforgettable matches, Hulk Hogan will forever be remembered as one of the greatest icons in WWE history. He was the face of an era, the voice of a generation, and the symbol of power, charisma, and immortality inside the squared circle. But now, he's gone. On a day that began like any other, the wrestling world has been blindsided by a truth too heavy to bear. Hulk Hogan, the icon, the immortal, the larger-than-life titan of WWE, has passed away due to cardiac arrest. And in an instant, the universe he helped build feels shattered. As word began to spread, silence fell across arenas that once echoed with the roar of Hulkamania. Fans who once tore open their shirts in mimicry now clutched them in mourning. Superstars, those who idolized him, fought beside him, and even against him, found themselves speechless. Because how do you say goodbye to someone who felt invincible? Terry Bollea, known to the world as Hulk Hogan, wasn't just a wrestler. He was the wrestler. With a voice like thunder, a mustache that became myth, and 24-inch pythons that pumped life into every crowd, Hogan redefined sports entertainment. He was more than a performer, he was a movement. A hurricane of energy wrapped in yellow and red. Born on August 11, 1953, in Augusta, Georgia, Terry Eugene Bollea's journey was anything but ordinary. A bass guitarist by passion, a bodybuilder by determination, and a pro wrestler by destiny, his life took a sharp turn when he caught the eye of wrestling promoters in Florida. It wasn't long before this towering figure was setting foot inside rings, laying the first stones of what would become a path to immortality. But no one, not even the most visionary promoter, could have imagined what would happen next. When Hulk Hogan arrived in the WWF in the early 1980s, the world changed. Vince McMahon took a gamble, one that would forever alter the landscape of professional wrestling. He saw in Hogan not just a wrestler, but a brand. A hero. A living, breathing action figure kids could worship. And in return, Hogan gave the company, and the world, something it had never seen before. Hulkamania. It wasn't just a catchphrase. It was a fever. A movement. A revolution. Hogan's message was simple: say your prayers, eat your vitamins, believe in yourself. And with that message, he inspired millions. The moment he lifted Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3 in 1987, body slamming the immovable, was more than iconic. It was historic. A 93,000-strong crowd at the Pontiac Silverdome watched in disbelief, and the echo of that slam would ripple through history. From that moment on, Hogan became the measuring stick. Every entrance was electric. Every promo, unforgettable. Every leg drop, a signal that the good guy always wins. But like all legends, his path wasn't without pain. As the 1990s approached, Hogan found himself wrestling more than just opponents. The tides of popularity shifted. New stars emerged. Scandals and lawsuits surfaced. Hogan's image, once pristine, began to crack under the pressure of fame, controversy, and the merciless spotlight of media scrutiny. When he left WWF and jumped to WCW in 1994, it sent shockwaves through the wrestling world. But he didn't just join WCW, he transformed it. In 1996, in one of the most shocking moments in wrestling history, Hogan turned heel. Aligning with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, he formed the NWO, New World Order, and reminded the world why he was still the most talked about name in wrestling. He embraced the booze, the hatred, the chaos. And somehow, he made it work. Even in rebellion, he remained a legend. By the early 2000s, Hogan had done it all. Championships, main events, television shows, movies. He wasn't just a wrestler. He was pop culture. He was America's superhero. But behind the bandana, behind the bravado, was a man who battled demons the public never fully saw. A troubled personal life. A messy divorce. A strained relationship with his children. Legal battles that stripped away the money, the homes, the friendships. And above all, a body that had given everything, and was now giving up. By the time he entered his 60s, Hogan had undergone more than a dozen surgeries, including multiple back and hip procedures. Each scar told a story of matches fought, wars won, and a price paid in pain. Still, he smiled. Still, he showed up. Still, he spoke to fans with gratitude and fire in his voice. He was, after all, the Immortal, but even the Immortal must one day rest. Earlier today, emergency services were called to Hogan's residence in Clearwater, Florida. He had collapsed suddenly, and despite the best efforts of paramedics and hospital staff, the official cause of death was confirmed as cardiac arrest. He was 71 years old. Within minutes, the wrestling world froze. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson took to social media, writing, "Without Hogan, there is no me. He opened the door, and we all walked through it. Rest easy, brother." Triple H, now a key figure in WWE's creative direction, posted a photo of Hogan backstage, writing, "The man who made us dream. A hero, a villain, a legend. We owe him everything." Even Vince McMahon, notoriously private in his statements, released a personal tribute. There would be no global WWE without Hulk Hogan. He was the force, the face, and the fire behind our rise. My heart is broken. And perhaps most heartbreaking of all was a message from Hogan's longtime rival and real-life friend, Ric Flair. "You slammed the giant, you shook the world, and you made us believe. I'll miss you, brother." The tributes poured in. From John Cena. From Edge. From Randy Orton. From AEW and other promotions worldwide. This wasn't just a WWE loss. It was a wrestling loss. A cultural loss, because Hulk Hogan wasn't just part of wrestling history, he was wrestling history. As the sun sets tonight, fans across the globe light candles, hold up posters, and replay that unmistakable theme song in their heads, "I Am a Real American," a chorus that once echoed through stadiums now echoes through hearts. It's hard to imagine wrestling without Hogan. Hard to imagine a world where little kids don't tear off yellow shirts in their living rooms. Where fans don't flex their arms in tribute. Where no one yells, "What ya gonna do" when Hulkamania runs wild on you? But perhaps that's the beauty of legends. They may leave us, but they never really go, because every time a kid steps into a ring for the first time, every time a fan chants Hogan, every time a move is made that shakes an arena, his spirit is there. I and the roar of the crowd, I and the thunder of the ring. I and the heart of Hulkamania. Goodbye, Terry Bollea. Goodbye, Hulk Hogan. You made us believe, you made us feel larger than life, and now, even in death, you remain what you always were. The news of Hulk Hogan's death didn't just ripple through the wrestling community, it shattered IT.in locker rooms around the world. A strange silence replaced the usual buzz. Promos were dropped, storylines paused, and feuds forgotten. Because no matter where someone stood, heel or face, veteran or rookie, Hogan was part of the foundation they stood on. And now, one of the pillars had crumbled. At WWE headquarters in Stamford, the atmosphere was unlike anything seen since the passing of legends like Andre the Giant or the Ultimate Warrior. An emergency creative meeting was called within hours. The plan? Scrap everything. This Monday Night Raw would be dedicated entirely to Hulk Hogan. Not just as a tribute, but as a full-circle moment. The man who helped build WWE would be honored by the very machine he created. Images of Hogan through the decades began circulating, the early days with his short, dark hair and shy smile, the birth of Hulkamania, with lightning bolts, flexed muscles, and a voice that boomed like thunder, his NWO era with the black beard and betrayal smirk, the return to WWE glory. Bathed in nostalgia and fire, fans began gathering outside stadiums and Hogan's residence in Clearwater. Not to gawk, but to grieve. Some wore replica belts. Others wore yellow boas. All of them carried something Hogan gave them: hope. Because at his core, that's what Hogan represented. Hope that no matter how bad things got, no matter how brutal the beatdown, you could hulk up, point a finger, and fight back. That energy is what made him different. See, Hulk Hogan wasn't a technician in the ring. He wasn't doing shooting star presses or chain wrestling with Flair. What he was, though, was a master of emotion. He knew how to move a crowd. how to build a moment. How to turn 60,000 strangers into one thunderous voice, and now, that voice felt muted. Wrestlers began sharing personal stories. Not just about the icon, but about the man. Kofi Kingston recalled meeting Hogan for the first time and being shocked when Hogan already knew his name. Becky Lynch shared that as a child in Ireland, Hogan was the first wrestler she ever saw. He was the reason I believed I could do this. Roman Reigns, stoic and hard to shake, posted just 2 words, "Thank you." Meanwhile, WWE began preparing a video package. This wouldn't be a rushed tribute, it would be a masterpiece. The kind of montage that makes the toughest fan cry. Opening with Hogan's first entrance, shots of WrestleMania 3, NWO's Black and White Chaos, the Hall of Fame induction, and finally, that last wave to the crowd in 2014, when Hogan returned to host WrestleMania XXX. It's easy to forget that Hogan's story wasn't just about the ring. His impact transcended wrestling. He appeared on talk shows, Saturday morning cartoons, movies like No Holds Barred and Suburban Commando. He was everywhere, from lunchboxes to video games to action figures. In the 1980s and early 90s, there wasn't a kid in America who didn't know who Hulk Hogan was. Even when the spotlight faded, and it did, he never stopped trying to be the larger-than-life hero. He made mistakes, some of them public and painful. But many fans, while hurt or disappointed at times, still saw the man who told them to believe. The truth is, Hulk Hogan's death has left behind a paradox. How can someone so big be gone? But that's what death does. It humbles. It silences. It reminds us that even our superheroes are made of flesh and blood. Even the immortal has a heartbeat. And that heartbeat can stop. And yet, what if the immortal didn't die? What if, instead, he passed the torch, one last time? Because in every arena, in every indie show, in every WrestleMania main event to come, his DNA lives on. I and the charismatic promo of an LA Knight, I and the explosive entrance of a Cody Rhodes, I and the unwavering loyalty of a John Cena fanbase. Pieces of Hulk Hogan are scattered across the WWE landscape, living, breathing tributes to the man who showed the world what it meant to be larger than life. Clearwater Beach will never be the same. That's where Hogan found peace in his later years. Where he mingled with fans in grocery stores, offered flexes to passing tourists, and walked with a slower, more careful stride, but still with that unmistakable aura. That's where he lived out his final days. Slower. Quieter. But always. Hogan, locals say he often stopped to watch the sunset. Said it reminded him of the closing bell after a long match. When the adrenaline faded, the roar quieted, and you were just Terry again. In the end, he was surrounded by those who mattered. Close friends. Family. Former colleagues who never stopped calling him brother. His last known words, according to an anonymous source, weren't dramatic or staged. They were whispered, and they were pure. Hogan, tell M. I love M. Maybe that's all we need to know, that beneath the bravado, the biceps, the boots, and slams, there was love for the fans. For the business. For the belief that even the most ordinary kid could grow up to be extraordinary. Tonight, somewhere in the sky, we imagine there's an entrance ramp. The pyros are going off. Real American is blasting. And one man, bandana tight, muscles flexed, finger raised, is soaking in that eternal ovation. Rest in power, Hulk Hogan, you ran wild, you are the man, and to us, you always will be. Say your prayers. Eat your vitamins, and never forget, Hulkamania is forever. As the days pass, the world begins to realize just how deeply Hulk Hogan's presence was woven into the very fabric of wrestling, and into the lives of millions. For some, he was the reason they tuned in every Saturday morning. For others, he was the reason they believed in themselves when no one else did. And for an entire generation, he wasn't just a wrestler. He was a hero. A beacon of hope in a chaotic world. A man who taught them that strength wasn't just in muscles, it was in conviction, in loyalty, in standing up when you'd been knocked down. Across schools, gyms, barbershops, and living rooms, fans old and new are remembering not just the man in the ring, but the man in their hearts. Tributes are pouring in, not only from wrestlers and celebrities but from everyday people. Teachers who grew up watching Hogan now share his story with their students. Parents who used to wear yellow and red now see their kids doing the same, running around the house yelling "Whatcha gonna do?" Because Hulk Hogan was generational. He wasn't limited to an era, he defined them. From the rock and wrestling explosion of the 1980s to the rebellious NWO takeover in the 90s, from comeback matches in the 2000s to nostalgia waves in the 2010s, Hogan was always there. And when he wasn't, his shadow still loomed over everything. Even the critics, those who questioned his wrestling ability, who pointed to controversies and moments of controversy, can't deny the undeniable. Hulk Hogan changed the world. He didn't do it by being perfect, he did it by being larger than life. In the days following his death, WWE announced a special memorial episode titled Immortal, the Hulk Hogan tribute show. Every match, every segment, every shot, would be a celebration. Old rivals like Ric Flair, Sting, and Kevin Nash agreed to appear. New stars like Sami Zayn, Rhea Ripley, and Roman Reigns volunteered to share what Hogan meant to them, even if they'd never shared the ring with him. In a poetic twist, it was revealed that Hogan had written a letter just months before his passing, addressed not to any one person, but to wrestling fans as a whole. The letter ended with the line, "If I ever go, just know I went out with a smile, and knowing I gave it my all for you. Thanks for keeping Hulkamania alive." And we did, from the screaming fans in the 80s to the Hogan sex chants in the late 90s. From the comeback ovations in 2002 to the teary-eyed Hall of Fame speech in 2005. We kept it alive. We didn't always agree with the man. But we always believed in the myth, because Hulk Hogan wasn't just Terry Bollea. Hulk Hogan was an idea. The idea that with enough belief, a little flex, and a lot of heart, you could be anything. For some, his legacy lives in DVDs and YouTube clips. For others, it's inked into their skin, a tattoo of a mustache, a quote from a promo, a flash of yellow and red forever etched into memory. And for every young fan stepping into the ring for the first time, every hopeful dreamer entering a tryout, every child watching wrestling for the very first time and asking, "Who's that guy with the mustache?" His legacy lives on, because heroes don't die, they live in the stories we tell. In the memories we keep. In the chants that echo, long after the show is over. Hulk Hogan is gone. But his impact? Unstoppable. His voice may have fallen silent, but his message? It's louder than ever. So let this be the final moment. One last flex. One final leg drop. One last wave to the crowd. As the lights dim, and the curtain falls, the world chants in unison, "Thank you, Hogan." And somewhere beyond this world, the Immortal One smiles, because Hulkamania never dies. If this video touched you, if Hulk Hogan was ever your hero, your villain, or your reason to believe, make sure to like this video. Subscribe for more stories that honor the legends who shaped our world. Share your favorite Hogan memory in the comments below. Let his spirit live through our voices, our tears, and our memories, because legends never leave us, they simply become eternal. And Hulk Hogan, he was never just a man. He was immortal. In the hours following Hogan's memorial episode airing, something unexpected began to happen across the globe. Fans in cities as far apart as Tokyo, Lagos, London, and New York began organizing spontaneous candlelight vigils in parks, wrestling schools, and even outside WWE venues. They brought signs. Wore old merch. Some had tears in their eyes. Others simply stood in silence, staring up at old clips playing on projector screens. There was no corporate sponsor. No PR stunt. Just people, young and old, gathering to say goodbye to the man who made them believe that heroes were real. Social media became a digital shrine. The hashtag Thank You Hogan trended worldwide for 3 straight days. Fans posted childhood photos wearing plastic title belts, footage of themselves meeting Hogan at signings, and raw, unfiltered memories of how he pulled them through hard times. One fan wrote, "My dad left when I was 6. But every weekend, Hogan made me feel like I had someone fighting for me." This wasn't just mourning a wrestler. It was saying farewell to a piece of their childhood, and in many ways, it was more than that. It was mourning an era, because when Hulk Hogan died, something else died too. Something intangible. Something sacred. The 1980s magic. The simplicity. The pure, unfiltered optimism of wrestling's golden age. Back then, lines between good and evil were clear. The bad guys cheated. The good guys fought back. And the biggest good guy of them all? He wore yellow, pointed straight at the camera, and told you everything was going to be alright, and now, he's gone, but what he left behind, no one can take away. In the WWE Performance Center, trainers have begun incorporating Hogan's matches into the curriculum, not to teach technique, but to teach emotion. To teach presence. To remind young wrestlers that the crowd doesn't remember every move, but they remember how you made them feel even in death. Hogan is still teaching. Meanwhile, his longtime friends are discussing the creation of a Hulk Hogan Foundation, aimed at helping retired wrestlers get medical care, mental health support, and financial counseling. Because if there's one thing Hogan's generation suffered from, it was the brutal aftermath of wrestling life. The broken bodies. The lonely roads. The lack of support once the spotlight dimmed. This, they say, will be his true legacy. To make sure the heroes of yesterday don't suffer in silence tomorrow. And the WWE Hall of Fame? It's already preparing something special. Rumors suggest a separate wing dedicated entirely to Hulk Hogan, the Immortal Wing. A place where fans can walk through his story, step into recreated moments like the WrestleMania 3 Body Slam, touch replicas of his championship belts, hear his voice echo from speakers as he tells them to believe in yourself, brother. Because that's what made Hogan different. He talked to us like we mattered. He looked into the camera like he knew what we were going through. And whether you were a scared little kid or a grown man battling doubt, something about him made you feel stronger. And now, as the final bell tolls and the curtain is drawn, the world is left with one final gift: memories of that unforgettable entrance music, of thunderous crowds, of Hulkamania running wild, of that flex, that grin, that fire, of believing in something bigger than yourself, even if only for 3 minutes under the bright lights of the squared circle. So, wherever you are right now, whether you're watching from your couch, your phone, or your own wrestling ring, take a moment, close your eyes, remember the Immortal One. And promise yourself this, that when life hits you hard, when the odds feel stacked, when you don't know if you've got what it takes, you'll dig deep. You'll Hulk up. You'll keep going. Because that's what Hogan would have done, and that's what Hulkamania taught us. Forever immortal. Forever iconic. Forever etched in gold. Rest in power, Hulk Hogan. Will carry the torch from here. Backstage at Monday Night Raw, the mood was different. No pyros. No laughter. No locker room ribbing. Just silence. The kind that only follows news so heavy, it sinks straight into the bones of every soul in the building. Just 24 hours earlier, Hulk Hogan, the man who laid the foundation WWE now stands on, was pronounced dead due to cardiac arrest. And now, in the very halls where he once walked as a titan, an eerie stillness lingered. WWE superstars, some who idolized him growing up, others who'd had the honor of sharing the stage with him, were now processing the impossible. The Immortal One was gone. Inside the locker room, Roman Reigns sat silently in front of his locker, his usual calm replaced with something deeper. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. Those around him knew the truth. Without Hogan, there's no WWE. And without WWE, there is no Roman Reigns. Down the hall, John Cena arrived early. Not for a match. Not for press. But for Hogan. Dressed in street clothes, eyes red-rimmed but focused, Cena spent much of the day walking the backstage corridors where Hogan once stood tall. At one point, he was seen standing alone in the gorilla position, staring out at the empty arena. When a production assistant asked if he was okay, Cena only nodded and whispered, "This is where legends are made." He made all of us. In catering, a quiet conversation unfolded between Randy Orton and Edge. Two veterans. Two men who grew up in the golden glow of Hulkamania. Edge remembered his first WrestleMania as a fan, WrestleMania 6 in Toronto. Hogan vs. Warrior. "I lost my voice screaming for Hogan," he said, a nostalgic smile breaking through the grief. Orton nodded and added, "He was the reason my dad kept going in this business. He made it feel big. Like it mattered." Even the youngest talent, stars like Braun Breaker, Tiffany Stratton, and Grayson Waller felt the weight of the moment. Some had never met Hogan. Others only knew him through old network footage or highlight reels. But now, they were part of the generation tasked with carrying on what Hogan built. Back in the women's locker room, Charlotte Flair held a framed photo, her father Ric Flair standing next to Hulk Hogan in their prime. She looked up and said quietly, "They were gladiators. And now one of them is gone." Becky Lynch, normally outspoken and full of fire, simply posted a photo on her social media, a pair of Hulkamania boots sitting neatly beside a spotlight. No caption. No hashtags. Just respect. And then came the moment no one expected. Triple H, now WWE's chief content officer, walked into the main locker room. Not with an announcement. Not with a camera crew. Just as a man mourning someone who had once inspired him to lace up boots of his own. "I won't pretend I knew Terry as well as some of you did," he began. "But I knew Hulk Hogan. The myth. The magic. The moment. He didn't just live wrestling, he was wrestling. And whether you cheered him or booed him, he brought you to your feet. That's power. That's presence. That's what we all chase." He paused, then continued, "This week, let's not do this for ratings. Let's not do it for merch. Let's do it for him. Let's remind the world that Hulk Hogan's spirit still lives in every match, every promo, every single moment we create. Because if we forget him, we forget ourselves." A quiet applause followed. Not loud. Not performative. Just real. Later that night, WWE filmed a tribute segment backstage. One by one, stars walked up to a camera, no script, no cue cards, just thoughts from the heart. AJ Styles, "I may have come from TNA, but growing up, Hogan was everything. He was Superman in red and yellow." Cody Rhodes, "My father respected very few people in this business the way he respected Hogan. And I get it now. He wasn't just over. He was eternal." Rey Mysterio, "I remember watching him with my son Dominic, before either of us stepped in this ring. Now I just hope I can pass down that same fire." Logan Paul, often seen as an outsider, spoke next. "You know, even for someone like me, coming from the digital world, Hulk Hogan was known. That's when you realize, you're not just famous. You're a legend." Backstage camera crews captured other quiet tributes. Braun Strowman writing HH on his tape. Sami Zayn whispering a short prayer. Kevin Owens showing his son old matches on a tablet before his segment, and then, perhaps the most powerful reaction came from someone who'd once battled Hogan face to face, Brock Lesnar. A man of few words, Lesnar stood with his arms crossed, hat low over his brow. Finally, he said, "There's a reason we call him Immortal. Because his shadow still stands in every arena. And I don't care how strong you are, you don't step into that shadow without respect." Meanwhile, over at AEW, tributes were happening too. Tony Khan opened their weekly show with a 10-bell salute. Chris Jericho, a man who grew up during the Hogan era, addressed the crowd, "No matter what logo's on your mic, we're all here because of him." Even CM Punk, known for his defiance, posted a simple message, "Without him, none of us get through the door." And while the wrestling world grappled with its grief, something beautiful began to unfold across indie promotions in the UK, Japan, Mexico, and even Africa. Small promotions opened their shows with tributes to Hogan. Wrestlers wore red and yellow. Promos ended with the iconic Hogan point. Fans erupted in Hogan. Hogan, chants like it was 1985 all over again, because grief, in wrestling, isn't just sadness. It's storytelling. It's remembrance. It's ritual. And Hulk Hogan, more than anyone, understood the power of ritual. In the days following the locker room tributes and industry-wide mourning, WWE began working behind the scenes on something that would become one of the most ambitious and emotional tributes in company history. The Hulk Hogan Memorial Legacy Project. The heart of this project was a singular mission, to ensure that Hulkamania never fades. Plans were quickly drawn for a permanent statue to be unveiled at WrestleMania, cast in bronze, life-sized, mid-flex, frozen in the iconic pose that defined an era. It would stand just outside WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut, beside the statues of Bruno Sammartino, Ultimate Warrior, and Andre the Giant. But this one would shine a little brighter, positioned under a spotlight that never goes out. Stephanie McMahon, returning temporarily from leave to oversee the tribute, announced a Hogan Memorial Scholarship Fund in partnership with Make-A-Wish and various wrestling schools around the world. The goal? To help underprivileged kids chase their dreams of becoming the next great sports entertainers. It's what Hulk would have wanted, she said, holding back tears. To pass the torch, one child at a time. In a private WWE creative meeting, Triple H introduced a new annual event, Immortal's Night. A tribute show every August, to coincide with Hogan's birthday, dedicated to honor